This is Toledo's Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO Zach Vassar, principal second violin and artistic administrator Merwin Sue, the TSO marketing director Felicia Canny, and we welcome back once more the Toledo Symphony's music director Alain Trudel. As we begin the new year, we had a New Year's program, and now we are talking about Desert Island Discs. But before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about a concert that's coming back up. Back to business. There are concerts again now that the new year has passed. This is a program that's happening this weekend at the Peristyle, Friday and Saturday night at 8 o'clock. It's called Nordic Air, music of Sibelius and Grieg and Nielsen, conducted by Alain Trudel. So, Alain, why don't you tell us about it? Before we get to that, let me bring up your walk-on music. Perfect music for Nordic Air. Yeah.
I really wonder.
Dance onto stage, please.
Yeah.
What makes you think you
want
won't?
See that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Every
Elaine.
concert.
This should be televised right now because Alain is humoring us with a great dance.
Yeah. Let's hear about Nordic Air, Alain.
Okay, so it's so funny to talk over that music about
it's very
Sibelius.
distracting. Yeah, just go like this.
I'll bring it way down. It's
Okay.
okay. I'll, when you're not listening, I'll mix it back in. Go ahead and get into it.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And we thought of doing a concert where I really want to bring back a very special guest that we had, who was the soloist on the concert that actually was my audition for the orchestra, the great Augustin Hadelich. And he played the Dvorak with us. And the Dvorak is not one of the most well-known concertos. And I thought, you have to come and play one of the top, 3 concertos with us. And for me, it's kind of with the Beethoven concerto, the Sibelius concerto is my favorite violin concerto. And I thought, let's play this together, and we built something around it. And I thought it'd be nice to have something that's a suite that talks about a story, that talk about Nordic stories. So we said we're going to do Peer Gynt, and let's do both suites. So it's a great way to have introduction to Nordic music for people who are not, who don't know it so well. But the concerto is like a huge, very serious music, but at the same time, something that people know already. And Peer Gynt, they will know a lot of it, but not the name.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, so many very famous little excerpts throughout those suites, those Peer Gynt suites. Should be said, actually written for a play by Henrik Ibsen of that name, the incidental music. So you have little bits and pieces like morning music and in the Hall of the Mountain King, we all know
exactly.
That. Right?
Yeah. And then, the morning music has been used so much. Oh,
see, he got fancy and used solfege.
That's the only way I get the right notes. So if I say
He
that.
started making things up at the end.
Watch out, I'm going to bring that walk-on music back again.
Oh, no.
No, you go ahead.
Anyway, it's January. It's we have 2 choices. Either we try to bring people down south and have a little party warm, but once in a while it's good to own it. So we're
Embrace the
Embrace
cold.
the cold.
Yeah,
Well,
embrace it.
Yeah.
I would say about
Says
all these
the Canadian.
right. All these pieces have this sort of burning inner core. Sibelius' music has this all the time, but I think that it's a great program for January because as cold as it is and as cold as it was for all these composers, there's a sort of burnished sound of warmth coming from all of the pieces on this, the Nielsen might be the most interesting way to finish the program with 4 minutes of just great color and dance.
Yeah.
So it could be a lot of fun. And Finlandia, can't say enough about that.
Finlandia, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you make me think, Zach, when you describe it that way, of like sitting by the fireplace while the snow's falling outside, right?
Kind of that, yeah.
That's
so this
kind
is
of
the
how it's
fireplace.
going to be. Yeah.
Well, and,
we're not setting any
we
fires,
are
though,
the
in the Paris stuff.
That's correct. That's correct, in case anybody's listening. But the thing I remember about Augustin's playing was that it sounded to me like something that was from an old LP. There was a sort of yesteryear sound to it, this Heifetz kind of it sounded like there was just an agelessness to it, which was fine for the Dvorak, but I cannot wait to hear it in the Sibelius, which was kind of one of those discoveries. Heifetz, of course, premiered it a long time ago, but it was one of his best re-recordings with Chicago, and it was one of these RCA records that I'll never forget. It is not one of my Desert Island CDs, though.
This concert is happening again this weekend, January 11th and 12th, Friday and Saturday, 8 o'clock p.m. at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle. Nordic Air is the name of it. Alain Trudel conducting with violinist Augustin Hadelich. And music of Sibelius, as we mentioned, also the Peer Gynt Suites by Grieg and the Aladdin March of Carl Nielsen. 419-246-8000 is the box office number, or you can visit them online at ToledoSymphony.com. So our subject for the rest of the podcast today was actually brought up by Alain Trudel. We were talking about different things we'd like to do, and you mentioned you really wanted to do a Desert Island Discs kind of program, so I'd be interested to hear what your choices are. Desert Island Discs, as you may or may not know, is still a BBC radio program. It's been on since the 1940s, and the idea is that people choose, I think, 8 different recordings that they would take with them.
They're kinder
it's
than
a lot
you
of
are.
music, yeah.
You made us choose 5.
I know, and you...
Impossible.
The exchange rate is pretty bad right now.
That's right. We're on the verge of Brexit, so...
Oh, Brexit jokes.
So, we're downsizing here, but... So I asked you to choose 5, and some of us chose just songs instead of entire albums.
I might have misread the email.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I chose songs too, so that's fine. And the other thing that they do on the BBC program is they let you take a book with you, and they also let you take a luxury item. So basically, their version of Desert Island living is pretty, nice. It's not bad at all, right? It's not like Gilligan's Island where you have to build a car out of, thatched leaves and things like that, and coconuts. Anyway. Clap for myself. That's all right. Before we get into all that, however...
We've given you way too much power.
I have a quiz for you all. This is called...
Speaking of way too much power.
I like how Brad Cresswell just became the Will Shortz of WGTE. When did this happen?
Exactly.
That's
I think he enjoys it. Look at him. He loves it.
A quiz for every episode. That's how we do it now. So this is called the Desert Island Dessert Quiz. Okay? Makes sense? Yeah. Here is the idea. You are a castaway on a desert island when a box washes ashore with the following ingredients. You have to tell me what classic dessert you can make.
Ooh.
So this is like
ingredients.
This is
exciting.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of baking, so I need to...
Now, we also have to assume that an oven and some kitchenware washed up on shore as well. Maybe a refrigerator, a couple of cappuccino machine, something like that. I mean, we're doing much better than the BBC at this point.
Maybe a phone to order in.
Yeah. So let's get a little music up. This is some happy kitchen music.
I love it.
I want to change my Desert Island discs.
Yes, Kitchen Island. Get it? Okay, here's your first dessert. This is a molasses crumb cake baked in a pie crust. The primary ingredients of the filling are molasses, flour, brown sugar, egg, and water. Anybody have an idea? This is actually kind of a hard one. It's a kind of pie, actually.
Is it a mud pie?
No, close.
Is it a molasses?
It has the name of an insect in it. I know.
Oh, it's not grasshopper pie, is it?
No, not quite.
Turtle pie?
No, that's turtles are not.
Oh, yes. I already forgot what you said. Please edit that out.
Maybe it's tiny turtle.
Any other guesses? Okay, that's shoe fly pie.
Oh.
Okay.
An apple pan dowdy.
This is a type of cookie made with butter or oil, sugar, and flour, and rolled in cinnamon sugar. Sometimes they use eggs as well. Sometimes cream of tartar and baking soda to leaven the dough. It's characterized by a cracked surface, can be crisp or soft depending on the
Ginger
ingredients
snaps.
used. Very close. Not quite. Think of a funny, weird, nonsense name for a type of...
Snickerdoodle.
That's it.
There we go.
Snickerdoodle.
Off by a 30-second note.
Oh, wow.
Okay, this one.
in a slow tempo.
I was going to say, what was the tempo?
This one has vanilla ice cream and a sauce made from butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, dark rum, and banana liqueur. There's also bananas in this dessert.
Bananas Foster.
That's right.
Wow, you guys must eat a lot to know all these things.
Says
Yeah.
the baker. Come on, Felicia.
I only bake cookies. Chocolate chip cookies.
I bet you get this one. This is a confection commonly made through binding a crisp rice cereal together using a combination of butter or margarine and melted marshmallows.
Come on, Felicia.
I was stuck on the rice cereal.
Rice cereal. What's a treat that has rice cereal in it?
I don't know. Rice Krispies treat?
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go.
Squares, yeah.
I kept thinking of baby food.
Fun
Right?
fact.
Anyone?
You know, that was a
Anyone?
traditional thing. People were making that, and it became so popular that Kellogg's finally got on the bandwagon and decided to make their own Rice Krispie treats. Not until 1995 did they actually do
Wow.
that, though. So you can buy them in the store pre-made, but they're much better when Felicia makes them.
And, they're so complicated to make. It makes sense that you'd buy them
Yeah,
pre-made.
why not?
Sarcasm translates really well on the radio, I think.
Yeah. So if you could,
Oh, gosh. The timing
you
of all of this.
maybe you could take a Rice Krispies treat and then mash it up and make your own Rice Krispies treat out of a bunch of
Former
Rice
Rice
Krispie
Krispie treats.
How meta.
Yeah,
That would
it
be
is
really
very
great.
meta.
I just remembered I had a friend who said he listened to an episode and his podcasting system was playing in the 1.5 times speed. So he got to listen to the entire episode in like 20 minutes.
Oh,
And I'm thinking that might actually be really valuable right now.
to get through this faster.
I think there's something weird about your math with that. It was 5 times speed, a 29-minute show times 5.
1.5.
Yeah.
Are we trying to do
1.5.
math? Let's just.
Yeah.
Yes, musicians and math. This is the
Well.
rejected podcast title.
We're going to rename it the Merwin Effect. Anyway. So I think, Merwin,
I think
did
it's a
you
tie. I think Zach and I tied on this one.
But I read Brad's brain.
You all right over there?
I'm
You,
tired.
she read Brad's brain and all she can do is laugh.
Exactly.
So if we tie, does that mean we get to go out and get some cookies?
Cookie. Did you bake some cookies?
Oh, cookies.
I
Did
have
you bring
cookies in the
cookies?
car.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
Perfect.
That's good enough. Just
Okay,
go
we'll
get
be
them
right back.
after these messages.
Exactly. Okay, now we're going to
What?
dive. We're going to take a deep dive into your musical psyches here with your Desert Island Disc selections, right? I asked each of you to give 5, and we're going to start with Zach. And Zach gave me 5 different excerpts. You also said, Zach, that you really do not appreciate this
No,
exercise.
I had a friend once say to me, "Can you make me 10 CDs that I can't live without from your perspective?" Because he said he wanted to know more about music, not just classical music. So I said, "Hey, that's a great idea." And then I spent the next month stressing out over the assignment because I couldn't just choose 10.
Yeah.
And then somebody else heard about that, and a couple years later asked for the same thing, and a couple new entrants had arrived, so I had to figure out whom to boot out. So basically, when you said 5, that's just punishing. So I got it down to 7, and then I just had to unfairly kick out 2 of my favorites and get down to 5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's not so much choosing your favorite pieces of music. It could be utilitarian. It could be like the longest piece of music or something that
Oh,
would
yes,
serve
that was
you
my
well.
strategy for a while.
I also have that covered.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do see
course.
some Mahler on here. So here's an excerpt from the first one that you have on your list.
Yeah.
This is violinist Hilary Hahn from her first Bach album.
Her debut album, in fact. I think she was maybe 14 when she recorded
Yeah,
this.
very young.
She had performed with Toledo Symphony, and I was really quite enchanted that this wonderful young violinist stood in on a moment's notice to do the Beethoven Concerto in place of Rostropovich, who was going to do the Dvorak Concerto. There's Dvorak again. This CD came out shortly thereafter, and it's not typical Bach, but for a 14-year-old to really put her fingerprints on Bach as well as she did, the sonatas and partitas were just amazing. And now, many years later, she's come back to finish the repertoire with the rest of the sonatas and partitas that weren't on that first album. But I just love it. It's something that takes me somewhere. It helps me to think when I really need to focus on something. It's been a good CD for me.
You've also got Gustav Mahler's Symphony No. 3 here, directed by Ben Zander. I'm curious why you chose this particular recording.
So this is my favorite Mahler symphony. Xander is my favorite Mahlerian as a conductor, because I haven't heard Alain Trudel's Mahler yet. But it's just a fantastically recorded cycle. They started it with Telarc Records, and now Lynn Records has picked it up. The recordings are really well done, and he chooses some interesting tempi at various points, but I feel like he really captures the soul of that symphony.
Yeah. Little Frank Sinatra. I know you love Frank Sinatra. Duke Ellington as well, and Beethoven Piano Concerto No. 5. You know, we're going to make a Spotify playlist of all this stuff so that people can take a listen if they so choose.
Mahler third made my honorable mentions. But
Yeah.
couldn't quite get into my top 5.
I
right
purposely
there.
did not include Mahler.
Because you figure that somebody else might?
Yes.
Well, if we're all
Yeah.
on the same desert island together,
Okay,
might
yes.
as well.
Well, yeah.
That is my
and,
list.
And see, and Felicia came back to me and she's like, well, what if I'm with my family on the island? Or what if I'm with Toledo Symphony Lab people? Or what if I'm by myself? So she came up with 5 for each of those. If you're stranded with your family on an island. Did I pick the right one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us what this is.
Okay, now you can fade it down. Well, the title of this song is "What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger." It is the epitome of breakup songs. However, I would just, drive that title home to the kids and the family and say, you can do this and power through this.
So
The desert
Kelly
island.
Clarkson?
Kelly
Yes.
Clarkson meets
Kelly
Friedrich
Clarkson,
Nietzsche. Kind of.
Yes.
Interesting.
Quite the metamorphosis.
Interesting. And then you have some other stuff here. I Won't Give Up by whoever that is.
I won't give up.
One Life
By Jason
Beautiful.
Mraz.
Gerard
by
Jason Mraz.
Yes.
Right.
Symphony No. 2 by Brahms. It's like one of these things does not fit with the others. And you have the Moldau by Smetana.
That's a good piece.
Now, if you were stranded with Toledo Symphony Lab people, we have that lovely Symphony No. 9. I'm sure this is the movement you were thinking of, right? Going
Of
home.
course.
Yeah.
Because that's the very first thing you would want to do if you were stranded with Toledo Symphony Lab people is to go home.
I could just hear Felicia now. Guys, did anyone happen to bring an English horn?
Is that what you were thinking? Going home? Get up and get me out of here?
No, it was more like the beginning
How
of
big
the.
is this island and where can I go?
It's more like the beginning of the last movement, which sounds like the Jaws music.
I noticed you have a little Celine Dion on this playlist, too. That's good.
Yes, if I'm going to be stuck on this island with all of you, I need to, entertain myself.
Yeah.
So I would play it and then watch your reaction.
Why would you need entertainment if you were stuck with all of us?
No comment.
I'm hoping that Alain would bring his trombone as, like, the luxury item. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we didn't cover
Then
that.
you could just play for us the whole time if we're stranded together. Just
No,
think
just
of
the
that.
mouthpiece.
Alain, you also chose Mahler, Symphony No. 9. I've got just a little bit of an excerpt here. I think this is from the
This is
fourth
the
movement.
best part.
Yeah.
Best part.
Yeah. And this is a recording with Berlin Philharmonic and Barbaroli.
Yes. In the 1960s.
Where is this coming from for you?
Oh,
Berlin.
For me, like what you're playing right now, the fourth movement of that, if you tell me I have one choice, that's what I would pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is...
It'll be a happy island.
no, but it's, it's always bittersweet, right, in that symphony. And it's the 9th, and Mahler is not ready to go. He's still a young man. He's like 50 when he wrote this. I mean, and he dies a year and a half later. But it's about being... Because I thought a lot about the concept of desert island, being stuck alone on a desert island. So you want things that reminiscence of humanity and what's beautiful in humanity. And also about, your personal self. I mean, and my choices are that. And even if you were thinking about a book also, you have to think about something that will, how could I say? For me, it's very bizarre. Mahler is very, very, that kind of music, especially that form, is very comforting in one way. And in another way, it's very sad, right? Because he's not ready to go, but he knows he's going.
Yeah.
So if you're stuck there, you're there. That's the way it is. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you're not having a life, an inner life at the same time. Anyway, so it's very deep music for me. It's very important symphony in my life also.
Well, you have a very eclectic list here. You've also got Bach, Cantata 199. Which cantata is that, or do you know?
It's one of the most how could I say human of the cantatas. It's not necessarily, it goes to the divine as always in the cantatas, but it's written at the first person, and it's not something you're witnessing. It's something you're living with at the first person.
Yeah.
And it's it's very dramatic. The name is called "My Heart Swims in Blood," but that's not. No, I know it's. I know
Wow.
it's. No, it's dramatic. But what is
that was the one that Brad crossed off of the pastry quiz.
No, but what's interesting?
Strawberries.
What's interesting about it is that it's a human experience towards, it starts with man in the general sense, the sins, and it moves throughout the different steps going towards transfiguration. And I don't know, it really touched me. It's my favorite cantatas of all of the cantatas. I know I don't know all of them, but that's a very important one also.
I'm not really seeing any happy music on here. You've also got Leningrad of Shostakovich. You've got the Kindertotenlieder, or the songs about the death of children by Mahler on here, and then you've got John Coltrane.
Coltrane, yeah.
I guess Coltrane is sort of like the peppy, happy music for you, huh?
I don't know. I would put Naima from Coltrane on that album.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if you're stuck, I mean, really, I took this little challenge, because it's a big challenge, not only to bring a few things, and this is the kind of music. Also, you mentioned Shostakovich. Basically, it's just because I like it so much. It doesn't, it's not because of necessarily the human experience. And I mean, it's tremendous also, but I love Shostakovich, and that piece has something special. It also has a special meaning. It's one of the first symphonies I played when I was a teenager, and something very special. The Mahler Songs of the Wayfarer. I know it sounds a little bit sad. It's about being alone again. I don't know. I guess musicians are loners sometimes. Yeah. And Coltrane is because for me it's my first love. It's one of my very, very favorite musicians. All different styles of music too.
Well, I'm kind of sad now thinking about poor Alain trapped on the desert island with his Mahler and his dead children and the Wayfarers and all that.
I do applaud you for having 2 Mahler selections, though.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, now we're going to cheer things up a little bit with Merwin's first selection here.
Oh, really?
Just kidding. This is the top of your 5, Beethoven String Quartet, Opus 135, the second movement.
Third movement, actually.
Or third movement. The third movement, which is, really peppy, happy music. Let's listen to just a little bit. I mean, that'll definitely keep you going. That and coconut milk.
Wow. I think one of the things, this is Beethoven's last completed opus. And I think one of the things there's kind of mythology about this piece. In front of the last movement, he wrote this question, "Muss es sein?" and then answered it, "Es muss sein," and he does that musically. So must it be, and it must be. And the idea of, hey, this is music about, is the end coming? The end is near. I must accept this. Or was this about, I have to write this extra quartet to get this commission, and I need to make sure I get enough money for it, And I think the great thing about this quartet is it really could be both. It's very funny.
Yeah.
It's very, it deals with these weighty philosophical questions, but this Beethoven adagio to me is the greatest of all adagios. It's just incredibly simple. You could not take a note out of it. You couldn't add a note to it. And actually, to me, it's the symphonic, like a few hundred years later, I think the Mahler third adagio is almost a dead ringer for this movement, up a semitone, same exact melodic contour. And I love both of those pieces so much. This is the one piece that I think this would be my single piece.
Again, you don't have really cheery music on here, although
actually I do. The Mendelssohn Octet.
Yeah, I was going to say
very, very happy.
Mendelssohn
piece.
Octet you have.
Yeah.
You also have Bach, the solo sonatas and partitas.
Yeah.
You chose Rachel Podger, the violinist, for that. The Violin Concerto No. 1 of Shostakovich, which we've talked about before, that recording of the Oistrakh.
Kind of that combination of, in a way, Alain's list and mine are very congruent. It's the Shostakovich's music that I love so much, one of my favorite composers, and the first concerto I was ever able to play with orchestra. So also a teenage memory.
And the Messiaen Quartet for the End of Time, which has such a heartfelt, tragic kind of story to it, the genesis of the piece.
Absolutely. I think that, if you're trying to find a way to feel good about being on a desert island, listening to music that was written in a concentration camp would be a good start. You feel better about your situation, but you also realize just how amazingly well Messiaen was able to transcend that situation and create music that he really firmly believed transcended time itself. And I think when you're on a desert island, you'll have a lot of time. And I figured that Messiaen would be a great way to transcend it.
It represents hope.
Exactly.
And then it'll be over and you won't know what to do after that.
It's inspirational.
Yeah.
Well, I have a few selections here, and one of the first ones I chose kind of fits into all this, except it's not quite as, I would say, high level. It doesn't operate on as high a level as Mahler or Beethoven or Bach, for that instance. I was thinking of Max Richter and a piece that he wrote that's been heard a lot in a few different movies and has taken on sort of a life of his own. It's called On the Nature of Daylight. Do you know this piece? Very simple. And it has a cyclical nature to it. You can just listen to it over and over again, which I usually do while I'm doing yard work or something like that.
Yard work,
But, yard work kind of like on the same level as desert island living, perhaps. And also the Vivaldi Recomposed. I love what he did with that. But I would also put Sibelius Symphony No. 7 up there, back to Sibelius again. I love Symphony No. 7 and the way that it sort of keeps you in suspense, a suspended moment. It's basically one long unresolved cadence until the very end. And I hear a lot of DNA in Max Richter's music that comes from Sibelius. And then moving back in that direction, I would also choose the soundtrack to Interstellar, which I think is a complete Sibelius ripoff. and it's done in sort of a pop fashion, which is like listening to Hooked on Sibelius. I like it.
Hooked on Sibelius.
Yeah. And then the one other piece that I had here, see if you recognize this one. I think this would be essential on a desert island.
Oh, gosh.
So
that would become the earworm.
Yeah.
That would probably send me sideways.
So I want to finish out the podcast by each of us selecting who we're going to be if we were casting Gilligan's Island. I would nominate Merwin for Gilligan, actually.
I would say
I was so
Professor.
professor. So I would be the
Professor,
professor.
yeah.
You think you'd be the professor?
I think that we
Well,
got.
I'm the skipper, obviously.
I would go along with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be Marianne.
I wanted to be Marianne. Zach.
Nobody wants Ginger? What
I'll
about
be
you?
Ginger.
You're like, I'll take her.
So we don't have a Gilligan, is what we're saying.
I think we all decided already.
Yeah.
Well, that about does it. Again, we want to remind you the Nordic Air concert is this weekend, January 11th and 12th, 8 o'clock p.m. at the Paris Style, Friday and Saturday. More information at 419-246-8000 or ToledoSymphony.com. Alain Trudel is conducting. Thank you, Elaine, for joining us. Also, thanks to Zach Vassar, Felicia Canny, and Merwin Sue. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab on FM 91.